My name's Stuart Johnston. I am the operations director of a reasonably small family-run business called Masons Mortar Limited. We started in Edinburgh. The business in its current iteration has been trading for 35 years. We now have 3 branches and we service customers UK-wide. Some people come in and collect. Other people place orders and we dispatch them, either small scale orders or orders up to 20, 30, 40 ton. So there's a lot of flexibility there. Our main focus is traditional lime mortars for the care and repair of older buildings, which thankfully Scotland has plenty of. We were with, for a number of years, a small family business of accountants in Bernard Street in Leith, Edinburgh. And at some point, Steve, one of the brothers, decided to sell his business to Scholes. And then that meant that that business, instead of being Frost's, which was its previous name, became Scholes. And that was the point at which we were introduced to a van. That, I think, was early 2019. And basically from then our relationship has developed with Scholes because Steve left shortly after that. So that's the sort of beginning, the genesis, if you like, of the relationship with Scholes. And we've been working with them ever since, obviously up to present day. So I think probably the things that are immediately come to mind would be A, that they're responsive. B, if the term proactive is acceptable, they don't just wait for something to happen and then go, yes, you should have spoken to me about that. But now that you have, let's do something about it. So they come forward with potential suggestions or solutions or way that we can do something differently that will make essentially things like, what tax that we pay or what the dividends for the directors need to be. They just look for solutions to make the business run more effectively and obviously more efficiently, because at the end of the day, we're not a charity or anything like that. We're a business. We've got bottom lines just like everybody else, and we have to run profitably. And they help with that a lot. So the main sort of engine for the business up until quite recently was the limited company. So the limited company has the 3 branches. It produces the revenue. The limited company has the production capability, the color matching, the admin. So all of the finance, everything is all together in one location. And that business has the satellite branches, which are in Leith, in Edinburgh, and in Glasgow. At a certain point, because I mentioned earlier that this is a family-run business, my mum and my dad said, we need to think about our collective futures. Specifically, my brother and myself, because we're a lot younger than they are, and they view themselves as quite comfortably well off. Their future is secure. So we talked about and then moved forward with Scholes to set up a holding company. So Scholes now deal with the accounts for the limited company and the holding company. That allowed us then, once that was all done, to look at the assets in the limited company and rentals for the sites in the limited company that could drive some revenue into the holding company, because it really wasn't doing anything. It was a holding company in name, but it didn't have any levers or specific interests that generated revenue. So Scholes were quite instrumental in helping us look at ways in which the holding company could have income pushed towards it and therefore be ring-fenced for our future. And part of that was looking at us becoming landlords. And when I say that, I'm talking about the holding company. So that's when we started looking at a very modest property portfolio. It started off with one. We're at two. We're in the process of looking at number three. So, we're not a giant. This is very small scale, but it's nice to be able to make that progression and know that the business is not just operating on one plane. I'm not entirely sure about, businesses generally. I mean, I can comment a little bit about the businesses that we know. I think there's a variety of options really there. So some companies that we deal with regularly and we have a very good relationship with, they've not got very much in place. Other people are extremely well organized. For us, we were really making the decision mainly on our own, but seeking the appropriate advice for how to actually set up the structures and carry forward the ideas to turn them into reality. Because it's all fine and well sitting around a small boardroom in a cold office, in late autumn saying, this is what we want to do. But translating that into something that works is a bit different. We sought the help of Scholes, particularly Ivan. He has a lot of experience with this, and he was able to provide quite a lot of insight in the best way to obviously set up the holding company, have the structures in place. There was a lot of minutes, memorandum, there was a lot of things that we had to agree and make decisions upon, a lot of things, setting up new share structure, and that was really bringing the focus for myself and my brother to say, right, if we're looking at succession seriously, how is this going to work? Even between, a mother, a father, and two sons. You would think it was simple, but actually there's a lot of permutations, and we had to take a little bit of time and some sage advice in order to be able to get that in place. We've now used 4 accountants over the piece, if you like, and they have ranged from, really not very good to mediocre to why are we having to prod them all the time in order to try and get some traction on certain things. And that led to quite a bit of frustration. In the sort of later stages, we were in a comfortable place, and Scholes really was simply just introduced to us because of what was happening with, at the time, our current accountant. But having said that, it wasn't as though we went out and sought out Scholes and said, oh yes, they're the right one for us. But having been introduced to them and worked more closely with them, I'd say, first of all, friendly and engaging. And you might think, well, that's a given. Everybody has to be. My experience, and I don't know if it's shared more widely, is you don't always get that in lots of different walks of life, both professional and personal. So that's the first thing. Second of all, helpful. And again, that should be a given, but it's not. And thirdly, I think, is the range of knowledge on numerous different topics. And even if they don't know something, to have the transparency then to say, I'm not certain, but let me put you in contact with somebody who is, or let me double check and come back to you. That is actually very important because it extends the rapport that you have with not just the organization, but the names behind it, the people. who at the end of the day are what will make or break a company. And I believe that's the case if it's a 2-person organization or a 2,000-person organization. And also because we as a small business need to be able to pivot and react quite quickly. We're not sitting there saying, well, it's okay, we've got 6 months to consider something. For example, recently in Scotland, there's going to be changes to the budget, and we're going to introduce, I think, a 6th tax band. So that just came out of nowhere. And we need to be in a position where we can take the opportunities that are there and also be aware of if doing nothing will actually mean that we will in a poorer position. So you've got to look at negatives and positives, and they're very good at engaging and trying to help, and I value that.